of this clowning your opponent so much. Every now and then, it's you need to do it to get in their head, but Floyd seems to just do it even when it's not necessary sometimes.
It's no doubt that Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez will lock horns later this year, and while the super welterweight champion has sought the guidance of Floyd Mayweather ahead of the fight, he's not done with Floyd yet.
Where he goes all the way down. Beautifully done. Ooh, there's a nice counter, and now Floyd's clowning him again. You know, I'm not a fan of this.
Been in camp training vigorously ahead of the fight, with Floyd Mayweather featuring regularly to help him on the necessary aspects of his boxing that'll ensure he gets a win on the night and inflicts a third loss on Canelo Alvarez. The training features some intense shadow boxing defensive techniques, footwork punching, and counter-punching styles, and his in-ring adaptability. Terence Crawford is an ambidextrous fighter and one of the best and most intelligent boxers of his generation. Hence, Mayweather has very little work to do on the undefeated super welterweight.
Right, so Floyd is very defensive now. He's letting his opponent get off. He's just making him miss. I mean, this is getting in his head enough. Doing it this way. He doesn't, I don't know.
Undoubtedly, Terence Crawford will hope to keep having Mayweather in his camp, as he hopes for the stars to align in his favor come fight night. It's not exactly a secret that the two champions have been in discussions to fight for a few months now, following a knockout win over Errol Spence Jr. in the summer of 2023. Terence Crawford called out Canelo Alvarez. At the time, Bud was the undisputed welterweight champion, who would need to climb 3 weight classes for the fight. At first, the super middleweight champion shut down the call-out last year. Canelo Alvarez decided not to fight Terence Crawford or David Bennett, instead scoring wins over Jamonja and Edgar Berlanga. In the meantime, Bud moved up in weight, once again earning World Boxing Association and World Boxing Organization interim gold with a decision win over Israel Madoff in August. Over the last few months, rumors have been revived regarding a potential Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford fight. Saudi boxing promoter Turki Alik has met with both men in recent weeks, and it seems that the stars have aligned for the massive boxing match.
That's what everybody wants to see. The only way they can be answered is if me and Canelo is in the ring and we fight.
We'll see. We want to talk about it, sit down.
First reported by the Ring magazine, the fight is officially on for September in Las Vegas. As of now, neither man has confirmed about the report. Added that while Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford has been finalized, a lot is still unknown about the bout. While the fight will happen in Las Vegas, the date and venue for the event remains unknown. However, Turki Al Sheikh's Rad season will promote the bout, which will likely air on pay-per-view. A deal has been reportedly agreed for Crawford to face Canelo on September 13th at the Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, and Ben Vides has chimed in with his spots on the fight.
I respect Crawford. He's a great fighter, and I always say that no disrespect to him, but
Some observers believe Alvarez will simply be too big for Bud, who will have to jump up 2 full weight divisions to take on the unified super middleweight champion. And although the Nebraska man who started his career as a lightweight will be at a significant size disadvantage, Benavides is not ruling him out. Speaking to Ariel Helwani, the Mexican monster explained that the time Crawford has had to build his frame, as well as his high IQ, could see him prevail against 4-weight world champion Canelo. It's a good fight. I think it's a good fight for both of them. But I think it's more important for Crawford than for anybody.
It's a little crazy that people talking about a small fighter like Charlo is big.
If anyone can beat Canelo, I think Crawford could. I do think the size could play a massive difference. But it's a good fight. I don't want to seem like a hater. I'm happy for Crawford that he's able to get a big fight like that. I give him a 710 chance of winning. Crawford is good. He's known that he's going to fight Canelo for a long time, so I'm sure he's been working on the weight. When you're a person who has a high IQ like Crawford, you have a high chance of making the other uncomfortable and hurting him. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins.
Which he is big, and everybody's talking about if I'm gonna face Crawford, fighter 147, who is smaller than Charlo. So no make sense.
Many feel Canelo is not keen on a showdown with Bennett. That LA native believes it will materialize before all is said and done. I think it will happen if I keep doing what I'm doing. I've shown I'm a big enough name. I'm making my case, and I still have a lot of room to go. It'll make for a bigger fight. Benavides himself is of course fresh off a big win, widely outscoring Cuban danger man David Morrell in an entertaining light heavyweight dust-up this past weekend. Despite chasing the Canelo fight for years, the 27-year-old has said he now has his eyes set on becoming undisputed champion at 175 kg, and as such will be a keener observer than most on the February 22nd rematch between Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. Also, boxing scene learned that 4 fight cards are reserved on the strip for March 22nd, March 29th, April 5th, and May 3rd, the last of which is a great unknown for now.
I respect Crawford. He's a great fighter, and I always say that no disrespect him, but sometimes it's a little crazy that people talking about a small fighter like Charlo is big, which is
that May 3rd date is obviously the one to keep an eye on. Canelo has fought on the weekend of Cinco de Mayo every year since 2019, excluding the co-year in 2023 of those 5 fights came at the T-Mobile Arena. So we can definitely connect the dots. It's not a sure thing, though, given how important the fight against Crawford is. Alvarez could choose to take more time off and keep his body fresh. But he doesn't like to take too much rest time if his past history is anything to go by. As for who he would fight, William Skull appears to be the main option. The IF super middleweight champion has been in talks of Canelo's team since the beginning of the year. Sometimes he is. It's a little crazy that people talking about a small fighter like Charlo. He's big, which he is big. Canelo, though, is now 34 years old. While he has shown no signs of slowing down, he is arguably nearing the end of his career. In a recent chat with Ring Magazine, Canelo revealed when he might consider hanging up the gloves. He said, "I don't know yet. I'm getting closer to retirement, obviously. But I'm feeling great. I feel better than ever. But maybe at 38, yeah. I think 38 would be the perfect time to start thinking about that." He further added, "I've had difficult fights and ones I didn't need in those moments. I take risks my whole career. I really love the challenges and what I do, and I try to show everybody how good I am. I love to go up and down and wait. I never look at my record and say, I did this. My trainer always talks about it, and he always shows me the things I've done, all the world champions. And it's very impressive. Has named you and Terence Crawford as one of the top 5 fights that he wants to see this year. Is that a fight that you're considering now? We'll see. Everything is possible. We see if you want to talk about it. See down. Really, Canelo Alvarez last beat Edgar Banga back in September 2024. Reports suggest his rumored bout against Terence Crawford is close to becoming a reality in 2025. For now, the future of this potential fight remains quite certain. Both fighters have existing commitments, and the possibility of an agreement will hinge on several factors, including contract negotiations and strategic decisions from both teams. There aren't many fighters that have shared the ring with both Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. The only man to do so inside a professional ring was Amir Khan, suffering stoppage defeats to the pair, and he's already given his thoughts on how a potential Crawford versus Canelo matchup would go. What do I think of that fight? Yeah, I think that everybody knows that Crawford got the skills. I do think that Canelo's a little big. He's a little big for Crawford, and it'll be a tall task from the win. There are a few more that have sparred the two men, though, and one of them has now given his take on how he thinks the fantasy clash could unfold. That man is middleweight contender Chiron Davis, who even took on fellow Canelo rival David Benavidez back in November 2021, having sparred both Bud and Canelo. Davis told Nil City Boxing that he thinks it would be extremely tough for Crawford and would back Alvarez to get the victory. Canelo is a big guy. It's going to be a lot. He can take a punch, so you're not going to hurt Canelo. I don't think Crawford can hurt him with one punch. Maybe he can cut an eye or something, or bother him to the body. It'll be a lot you have to It'll be a lot to get that victory. Based on size alone. Not that size when fights, but you got a guy that got size and skills. It'll be hard. I mean, he has to get some flesh on gloves and go to the body. It's going to be a tall task. Canelo can really fight. He has moves and traps. It's not easy in boxing. Nothing is impossible. If I had a bet, I'd put money on Canelo. I'm not taking anything away from Crawford. But Canelo is great. Can Canelo stop him? He's a bigger guy. I think one punch can do it. Oscar De La Hoya, despite his complicated relationship with Canelo, Alvarez has shared his thoughts on a possible showdown between the Mexican superstar and Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford says he wants to fight Canelo. He's changed his tune. He said he's willing to move up 3 weight divisions. To me, that's kind of crazy. But that just shows you, the dog that's in Terence Crawford. Canelo is victorious against Charlo. De La Hoya insists that his predictions regarding any potential fight involving Canelo are unbiased. Oscar De La Hoya has a bold opinion on the potential outcome of this hypothetical matchup. The former world champion believes that Canelo, with his greater size and power, would have a clear advantage over Crawford. At 154, Crawford didn't really look too dangerous up in the ring against a beast. So imagine Canelo being the bigger guy, being a beast. It's almost like a no contest. I mean, come on, when has a smaller good guy ever beaten a good bigger guy? It's never happened in the history of the sport. It's rare. De La Hoya told Fight Hub TD Crawford, renowned for his technical ability and punching power, would face a significant physical challenge in taking on Canelo at his natural weight. Terence Crawford will beat Canelo anytime, anytime, because, and this is look, while some experts believe Terence Crawford possesses the skills to compete with Canelo, the disparity in size and power could prove decisive. Demetrius Andrade, a former super middleweight world champion, weighed in on this highly anticipated matchup. Just too much overall. Is that kind of the same thing with the Crawford and Canelo because of the weight classes, the weight between them? Yeah, I believe so. I love Crawford. He's a good friend. We reach out to each other. We've been traveling the world through the amateur program. He saw me beat people up. I saw him beat people up. I think the stories could go on. But when it comes to weight empowerment to compete with Canelo, the disparity in size and power could prove decisive. Demetrius Andrade, a former super middleweight world champion, weighed in on this highly anticipated matchup. Just too much overall. Is that kind of the same thing with the Crawford and Canelo because of the weight classes, the weight between them? Yeah, I believe so. I love Crawford. He's a good friend. We reach out to each other. We've been traveling the world through the amateur program. He saw me beat people up. I saw him beat people up. I think the stories could go on. But when it comes to weight empowerment to compete with Canelo, the disparity in size and power could prove decisive. Demetrius Andrade, a former super middleweight world champion, weighed in on this highly anticipated matchup. Just too much overall. Is that kind of the same thing with the Crawford and Canelo because of the weight classes, the weight between them? Yeah, I believe so. I love Crawford. He's a good friend. We reach out to each other. We've been traveling the world through the amateur program. He saw me beat people up. I saw him beat people up. I think the stories could go on. But when it comes to weight empowerment,